listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellen Flukiger, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to Your Ultimate Life. Today on LA Talk Radio, I'm excited. And I'm moving my little URL around because I want to talk about that because that's next week. Something that's going on next week. But what I want to talk about today, I'm taking out my headphones because I don't need them right now. What I'm talking about today is lenses. Now, this picture behind me is made by one of those AI engines, and I talked about a traveler and so forth. But let's talk about how this person right here might look at the landscape. So there's the landscape, and there's mountains and valleys, and they might look at it as, number one, they might look at it as, ooh, this is going to be difficult. Lots of struggles to cross. Might be alligators in those waters down there. Might be dangerous. I don't know. Maybe there's going to be trouble, and I'm going to get hurt. Or might look at it and say, wow, this is somewhere I've never been before. There's all kinds of cool stuff for me to discover. What's the difference? Well, the difference is in the way this person chooses to look at the valley, to look at the mountain, to look at the landscape. So I called it lenses, and I have here in front of me a bunch of funny lenses. Now, here's just some plain reading glasses. And if I look at anything through these in the right way, I can see a little bit better. Now, I might put on a pair of funky lenses like this, and now I can't see you at all on the screen, but it makes me look a certain way, right? Or I might put on a pair of lenses like this, and they're dark too. Or I might even go crazy and put on a pair of lenses like that. And each of those lenses, now look at those, ooh, those frames, aren't those fun? Found them in one of those sunglass shops in the mall a couple of years ago. And I don't remember the brand, but it doesn't matter. I bought them because they were weird. Now, the reason I'm talking here about lenses isn't to sell sunglasses and isn't to ask you to wear contacts. Besides, I wear those too. Those are a different kind of lenses, and those lenses are really special. And this is going to play a big role in how we develop this topic about lenses. What's special about my contacts? Well, if you look, you don't probably normally look in the guest's eyeballs, but if you look at my eyeballs, you can't see this, but there's the iris, which is the colored part of the eye, and there's the pupil in the middle, and the white part has a name. And I didn't know what that was most of my life until I started needing to know. The name of the white part is the sclera. Sclera. And the lenses that I have are called scleral lenses, and the reason is because they're so big, they cover the entire iris and go clear out to the white part. Now, this isn't a class in medical stuff, and who cares? But the reason they do that is because my corneas are mush, and they don't hold their shape. So if I wear glasses to correct my vision's been terrible since I was in kindergarten. First grade, I remember getting my first pair of glasses in first grade, and I thought the world had completely changed. I thought, wow, I can see. And I hated wearing glasses, but I loved them because it made me see. And of course, I had the, weird ones, black horn-rimmed, and I got laughed at and teased, and all the way through high school. I had to keep wearing the same thing, and they were always... and then my parents wanted to get me the kind with the hooks around the ears, so they weren't even regular glasses. They had hooks because so I wouldn't lose them because I did a little bit of sport activity, played tennis and some other stuff. Anyway, I have had these scleral lenses because my corneas are mush, and that means when I wear regular glasses, I can't see because the corneas don't hold a shape. So those are very special lenses for me, and they allow me to see. Because without them, my vision's like 20/500, which is blind. With them, I can see pretty good. Still get a driver's license, that sort of thing. Why do you care about my lenses? Well, you don't. But you care about yours. And here's the reason. Whether you wear lenses to see with your eyes or not, you still wear lenses. You still wear lenses. And the lenses that I'm talking about are the way we see the world, how we interpret things. So we live in Edmonton, Alberta. in the frozen north. That's north of Montana, and it gets minus 40 in the winter. And yes, we use Celsius here, but minus 40 is the same, Fahrenheit and Celsius. That's where the temperatures cross. So we'll have several days of minus 40 every winter. Not a lot, but maybe a week or two. So it gets awful cold, and some people can say, oh, that's horrible. Someone else is a city of 1.5 million. So the city up here has been here for a long time, and clear back in the days when there's a Fort Edmonton, that sort of thing. And so it's been home to people who've thought this place was just fine. What's the difference? Well, the difference is your point of view. As funny as it might seem, I spent a number of years in Phoenix, Arizona, which is 1,800 miles straight south of me. And Phoenix gets plus 40. In fact, I saw the other day that it was 45 Celsius, which is, I think, 113. And that's not unusual. I was there one year when it was 122 or 3 at the airport, and they actually closed the airport, the Sky Harbor Airport, for a while. So that's boiling hot, and some people think that's just ridiculously hot. But Phoenix is a city of several million. So what is it that makes some people think it's okay? Some people think it's just barely tolerable. And some people, sun worshipers, they think it's the greatest thing in the world. And Phoenix is growing like crazy and has been all the years I've known about it. Well, this is why I want to talk about your lenses. Your lenses. Lenses are your context. Now, you've heard people say all the time, oh, well, that was taken out of context. And people do it all the time. They try to make some situation mean something different than it meant. And they try to convict people using a fraction of words and make it sound like they believed one thing when really, if you heard the whole thing, it's not quite right. That's context. Well, your context is the same as your lenses. Now, there's a saying that I want to talk about, and that is this. We hear people say sometimes, well, you don't see the world the way it really is. You see the world the way you are. And it's often said kind of with that finger wagging, kind of like an indictment, like there's something wrong with you because you see it the way you are. Well, I've got news for you. Excuse me. Of course you see it the way you are. The lenses you have are the accumulation of your experience, the things you've learned, the things that have happened to you, the things that you've created for yourself. All those experiences gives you and me a view of the world, much like this explorer back here. His experiences before this, in some circumstance, looking over something similar might give him an impression that may or may not be true for this particular valley and mountain range that he's looking at. That set of lenses is what I want to address today, because we treat those lenses like they're true. So while it is not an indictment, something wrong to say you see the world the way you are, of course you do. You only have one set of lenses. The great revelation is this. Everyone's lenses are just as good as mine. Everyone's lenses are just as true as mine. Because they had the set of experiences and learnings and stuff they did and happened to them and everything else that created their view of the world. And that's the only view they've got. And so for me or you or anyone to believe that somehow that person over there should look at the world the way I do is silly. In fact, it's really arrogant. It's just as likely that they would assume that I should look at the world the way they do, or that you should look at the world the way I do, or I should look at the world the way you do. You, excuse me, you and I see the world through the lenses of our past experience. Now, when I say all that, you might be going, well, duh. So what difference does that make? Well, it makes all the difference, and here's why. This show is about creating a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. A life that is full. of excitement and creation. Now, I don't know if you live that life today. Maybe you do. Maybe you get up every day just stoked out of your mind to live your life. Everything you have to do on your calendar or that comes up at random is just a thrill. Now, if you live that kind of life, I'd like you to do me a favor. I'd like you to reach out on social media and contact me. It's not hard to find me, Kellen Flukiger. It's a very unusual name, and so you'll be able to find me. And here's why. I love to get to know people who have created that circumstance for themselves. And I say created because it is created. When we were born, we didn't have any lenses. We were a baby. And I don't mean eye lenses. Hopefully we had those. But I mean, we didn't have any predisposition about what anything meant. We were infants, fully dependent on whoever, and we got good care or we got bad care. That in itself started building the lenses. We learned to cry. We learned to play nice or play mean. We learned to need to defend ourselves in some situations that are sad. Or we learned to be inquisitive and to be curious. Each of those experiences helped us build the view of how the world works and our place in it. Now, I love acronyms, and I'm going to give you one here, and it's called your Be Deep. B-D-E-E-P. Be Deep, and it stands for beliefs, definitions, experiences, expectations, and perceptions. Your beliefs, definitions, experiences, expectations, and perceptions, or your Be Deep, those are your lenses. That is your context for the world. And it's not just a curiosity, because it actually defines, for me and for you, what we believe is possible in the world. It defines how much money we think we can make. It defines how cool we can be. Remember, it defines what those kind of things mean, and what status means, and what cars mean, and what a house means, and money, and our opinion of ourselves and others. All of those things are defined by that Be Deep. Now, you know the old story, if two people touch an elephant, they describe it completely differently, and the answer's obvious, they touched it in different places. Well, the world and life and everything is like that. What you and I think of the world depends on where and how we touched it or it touches us. The greatest discovery you can make when you're trying to create your ultimate life is to discover that you actually have lenses and that they color everything you see, everything you believe, everything you think is possible, everything you even want, everything you try, everything you don't try. Before you realize that you have these lenses, all you have is a fish who doesn't know what water is because they're in it. So when we live with just looking at life through those lenses and we don't realize that they're just lenses and we know exactly what's in them, it's that collection of stuff in the Be Deep: beliefs, definitions, experiences, expectations, and perceptions. So all that stuff created my lenses. And as long as I don't know that I'm wearing lenses, then I believe with all my heart and soul that the world works the way it looks through my lenses. That's not true. And that's a long, dramatic pause on purpose. It really isn't true. So what do you do with that? Well, the very first thing is to realize that it's true. There is a different way to look at every situation. It sometimes annoys people, and it might amuse people, to have two people look at a law or a court decision or a behavior of a child. And one person thinks that the child is behaving exactly age appropriately, and someone else looks and thinks that the child is completely out of control, and what's wrong with those stupid parents? Same kid, same stuff, right? The difference is the be deep, the difference is the lenses. And who's to say whose lenses are right, whose lenses are better? This is the genesis of so much strife and struggle. If you and I look at something different, and we both know that we've got our own lenses, then I don't need you to look at it the way I do. The first layer of discovery here, when you think, well, I have lenses and you have lenses, that's fine. And someday you'll be smart enough to know that my lenses are right. And I hope I can be patient with you that long. Well, that's not a very productive way, especially if both people are doing that. When we make judgments about the point of view, politics, governors, presidents, anything going on, when we make judgments about others because they view a situation differently, all we're really doing, this might be scary and it might make you mad, I don't know, but all we're really doing is demonstrating that we somehow believe our lenses are better than theirs, that mine are better than yours, or yours are better than mine, and that's not true. Because if I had gone through exactly the same circumstances you had, I would be really likely to think, feel, act, vote, or not vote, or do whatever just like you, because my context, my lenses would be the same as yours. So how does that go to creating your ultimate life? Well, establishing, first of all, the fact that we live through these lenses is the first critical piece. Establishing the fact that all they are is an accumulated set of experiences, and I could take them off. Now, they're not quite as simple to take off as pulling off a set of sunglasses. That's really easy, and suddenly I pull them off, and the colors are all different. My face looks different. Everything looks different right away. Pulling off our context lenses, that's harder, because we have come to believe and accept that they're glued to our face, that the world is indeed the way we see it. People get in fights. One of the ways this is demonstrated most clearly, think about probate. When someone passes away and there's any kind of money to be left in a will, previously well-organized families that get along or used to get along completely fall apart, fight, argue, spend all the money in court, become completely estranged because one person or another believed with all their heart they should get the money or the goods or the antiques or whatever it was. And, you know, everybody has their own beliefs, and that's how glued to the face those lenses are. So what do we do with that? Because here's what I know from my own hard-won experience. Until I learned that first of all, that I have lenses and that my life, everything I see and believe is colored with those, until I understand that, I can't make very much personal progress because I'm continually hampered, weighed down like an albatross around the neck. I'm continually weighed down by the idea that somehow I'm right and everybody else ought to organize their thinking, their actions, the rules, laws, circumstances, good luck, bad luck, all that stuff around my wishes. Well, that's not going to happen. And so what ends up happening is I live in frustration, chafing, arguing, railing against people, systems, laws, good luck, bad luck, all those things, because they're not like they're supposed to be. And that supposed to is here. So I've created an idea. And the idea is a line that goes from one side, think of a line across a piece of paper. And I call it the reality response line. Your or my response to reality. Because reality is what it is, right? It is what it is, and I actually don't control very much of that at all. Now, that is one of the fundamental key discoveries. Let's take a little thought experiment like Einstein and his buddies used to do. Think about the whole cosmos. At this moment, how much of the cosmos are you or am I aware of? Well, none. Effectively, I mean, it would be such a small number we can't calculate it. Okay, well, let's bring it closer to home. How much of what's going on in the entire world do I know anything about right now? Again, I can't figure out the fractional percentage. Okay, forget that. How much of what's going on in my own neighborhood do I know right now? Again, nothing. I don't even know what's going on upstairs in the house. Now, my recording studios are in the basement. My video studio, music studio, and this podcast studio are in the basement. I do not know outside this little cubicle here what's going on anywhere else. So as a percentage, I know maybe a zillionth of what is actually going on. Yet somehow, in our arrogance, we believe that we ought to have the control so that whatever is in our area, even though 99-point-something% is completely outside of our awareness and control, that it all ought to be lined up just with what I want. Well, when I say it like that, it's so silly, it's laughable. And even the stuff that is in this immediate area, I don't control. So, for example, this computer could suddenly crash. One of the lights could burn out. The microphone could quit working. All kinds of stuff. I could start coughing again. All kinds of stuff could happen that are outside my control. That is what I meant by reality. Reality is just simply what is. Now, the reality reaction line that you drew either actually on a piece of paper or in your mind is our choice about how we respond to that reality. Now, many people haven't really ever thought about responding to reality. Instead, they think more about reacting. So stuff happens. Somebody says something, the weather's bad, whatever it is. They changed the tax laws. I got a letter in the mail yesterday. It was not what I wanted. It was a mistake on the part of a financial institution. It cost me, X $1,000. So that is a thing. I don't know if I can fix it or not. And so that is an example of something that just is. The reality reaction line is a device to help you and me choose how we react on purpose. And we talked about this be deep earlier, or lenses. Our normal reaction are the things that we've learned from the past about how to handle a situation. So if someone says something not very nice, we get indignant and we yell. Or our practice may be to curse them under our breath. Or our practice may be to stomp off and gossip about it to someone else. Or a reaction may be to do none of that, but figure out a way to get even. All of those are possible reactions, and most of them are learned, and they belong in that lenses, in our be deep. Another possibility is to think, wow, I don't know what's going on in that person's life right now that brought them to that place where they did that. I wonder if I can help. Hey, it sounded like you were really frustrated there. Did I do something to offend you that I'm not aware of? Like, I could do that. Another thing I could do was send them flowers because I believe that something's wrong. Another thing I could do is find out if everything's okay. I'm supposing maybe it's someone at work, or maybe in your own family. Maybe you're married and your spouse does something that's uncharacteristic, and you could get mad and freak out, or you could say, I wonder if something's going on. I wonder if something happened. And in just complete love, say, wow, that's not usual. Can you tell me if something's happened? Can I help you with something? Those are all choices on the reality reaction line. We don't usually think about that. What we usually do is we have the lenses glued to our face and we do whatever it comes up natural. Well, you made me mad. You cheated me. You embarrassed me. You. And the answer is no, you, nothing. Never, under any circumstances. Take that out of your vocabulary and forget about it forever. What, Kellen? Yeah. And here's why. This is not an exercise in futility. It's an exercise in power. I repeat that. It's an exercise in personal power. It is a key piece of creating this ultimate life we're here to talk about. Because when I react according to standard patterns, someone cuts me off on the freeway, flip them off. Had that happen the other day. I didn't flip somebody off. But we were driving. My wife was driving, and I was sitting in the passenger seat. And we had her mom and our Ukrainian family with us. And we were not able to go forward because there was some impediment in the traffic. And the person behind us was honking. And they couldn't see what was going on, but they were frustrated because we weren't moving. Then they were able to squeeze over and get around us. And they could see what the problem was. But in their natural reaction, the passenger on that side flipped my wife off. Now, it was funny because my wife wasn't even watching. And I kind of saw it out of the corner of my eye, a movement. But the Ukrainian family lady, she laughed and said, oh, and, because she saw the whole thing. Now, there wasn't anything that we really could do about the situation. But that natural reaction was completely predictable, given that person's set of lenses. Now, we chose to laugh and have it be funny instead of being indignant or negative. But again, that's a choice. That's a choice. So I want to go back to this reality reaction line and talk about why it is so powerful. When you intentionally take into account your lenses, when you decide to put them on, take them off, put on a different pair, ask the wrong or the right or different questions. When you choose to do that, not only do you maintain control of your own life, but you have power. This is so important. You have power you wouldn't know until you try that. What I learned, is that no one can make me mad. Now, I made a deal with a client some time ago, and I'm a coach, and I charge whatever I charge. And I had a client or a potential client come to me that wanted to engage in coaching for several months and had only part of the fee that I charge. But I knew they had a skill I really needed. So we made a deal, and I coached them for that period of time, and they did not deliver. And now a year or more has gone by. That particular client has said to me many times they were hoping that I would get angry and blow them off. I've chosen not to do that because that's not who I am. What that has done in the situation, it has given me power. Because they know that they made this commitment and it bothers them. So they were hoping that I would get angry and create an escape. Now, I don't know if that's a habitual thing for that individual to try to escape from commitments that way, but it makes me sad. But my point isn't any of that. My point is my choice gave me control over the situation. No, I didn't get the service, and there's nothing I can do to create that, getting the service. But what I can create is how I feel. I don't have to have any cortisol. I don't have to have any anger, frustration, negativity. I don't have to have any of that. And so, again, I have control over the situation. So let's talk about this reality reaction line for a minute. On one end is, I call the first third, resisting reality. And I hope you're watching the video, but I'm holding my fingers up like I'm representing a line. And the first third of it is resisting reality. And the middle third is accepting reality. And the top third of the line is embracing reality. Or you could think of it as a vertical ladder with 12 steps. And the first 4 are resisting reality, and the middle 4 are accepting, and the top 4 are embracing reality. Now, reality the word that I'm using means those things which are outside my control. I'm not talking about any of the things that are in my control, but when you look around and you think about it, the amount of stuff you control and I control is microscopic. I don't control what you think, what anybody thinks. I don't control what you do or say at all. None of it. The only thing I control is what I think, how I feel, and what I do. That's it. Nothing else. Sometimes we act like our feelings are out of control. That is only because we haven't learned to exercise control of our thinking. I'll give you an example. If I see a picture on a wall, and that picture I know is a picture, and it has a person with a sword aiming it at me, and I know it's a picture, I don't have any reaction because I don't believe there's danger. If, on the other hand, it is done in such a way, it's 3D and the lighting is just right, that I believe that that sword is real and it's coming at me, same picture, then the fact that I believe that causes all kinds of chemistry in my body. I get scared, I duck, I run, I shout, I do whatever. So it is believing your thinking that causes feelings. Your body doesn't react until you believe a thought. Now, sometimes because of Be Deep, those thoughts and previous experiences are buried deep in us, and so it is automatic. But it's still believing a thought. It is assigning a meaning to a set of words, someone's look, an eye roll, a movement. We've already got a historically assigned set of things, and so immediately we have these feelings and we react, and then we become just sort of helpless and hopeless. We are then complete victims of that Be Deep. Then that context that I talked about becomes a straitjacket. We're locked in a context straitjacket, believing we have no options, no recourse, other people control us, we don't have control over our lives, our opportunities are limited, the world sucks, and how come I got such a raw deal? Well, you can live like that if you want to. But I want to explore how this reality reaction line works. So when I operate in the bottom third or the lower third, and I'm in resisting reality, that can range anything from silly examples like cursing the weather. You know, I wanted to go skiing and I was looking for a sunny day that was not too cold, but cold enough to be good. And I'm going to go skiing. And instead it turned out to be foggy and snowing lightly. So the snow's flat lit and it's no fun. So that quote spoiled my day. And I can choose to be hateful, angry, curse at the weather, at nature, and everything else. Or I can choose not to do that. I can go anyway. I can decide to do something else. Or I can work on something in the house and not go anywhere outside. All those things are possible. But how it affects me is my creation. Now, when I resist reality, the lower third of that line, I might do things like get violent. If I think someone's hurt me, I might go try to get revenge, and it might result in acts of violence, or, you know, not quite to the extreme, complaining or gossiping or bitterness. It might call up anger, and I might live with a lot of cortisol and adrenaline and the feelings of anger and frustration and stress in my body. You know what that does? That kills you. There's a book called Anger Kills. If you haven't read it, it's an interesting read. It was some research done by a doctor in, I think he was in New York, that demonstrated that people who live with a lot of anger die several years sooner than those that don't. And the answer is not a mystery. The chemistry of anger is corrosive. The chemistry, the neurotransmitters created by being angry is corrosive. And so when you have a lot of that, it kills you several years earlier. So resisting reality is a stance that says, I should control it, everybody should know what I want, and I'm going to be angry, frustrated, push back, all the way from violence to just anger, to seething, to sarcasm. All those things are resisting what is. Okay, you've seen all that. Maybe you live there. Maybe you have lived there. The middle section is more interesting. It causes a lot less damage to you and the people around you, but it's I call it accepting reality. And sometimes we believe that that's as good as it gets. Accepting reality in the middle is sort of on one, it's like being resigned. Oh, well, I guess that's what it is. I'll just kind of make the best of it. Okay. And so you're acquiescing. It's like, well, that sucks. I didn't get what I wanted. And so you live in that place of accepting reality, but grudgingly. Or another version of that that's a little better is phrases like, well, everything happens for a reason. Now, some people think that's kind of, well, I'll accept the will of the divine and stuff like that. It's still victim speak. It's victim talk. It is, this stuff got imposed on me. I'm sure there's a lesson in here somewhere. I'm sure if I tough it out, I'll figure out later it was good for me. There'll be some positive thing at the end. Well, maybe there will be. But that kind of attitude means it takes longer to find it, and it's not as much fun. So even the idea that everything happens for a reason, or there are no accidents, any of that kind of stuff, especially when you're talking about, now when something good happens, you say, wow, there's no accidents, that's leaning into it. But we're talking mostly about things that happen that we did not expect, did not want, we view at the moment as a setback. And this is a choice about how we lean into that situation, run from it, resist it, hide from it, etc. So accepting reality is the lens that says, well, I'll just try to get through this the best I can, and maybe somewhere down the road there'll be a lesson and I'll see that it was okay. And so sometimes that's like suffering in silence, stiff upper lip. I'm just going to get through this the best I can and hope things are better. And maybe, you don't complain. Maybe you just keep it inside and wonder why life is so tough and why this all happens to you. That is all victim. That is all abdicating the true nature of your divine creative control. That's giving up the sovereign creative power that you have and that I have. So now let's get to the good part. We've talked about resisting reality. We've talked about accepting reality. Now we're going to talk about embracing reality. Now remember our first comments about lenses. Up to this moment, you've lived however you've lived. The lenses you have today are the ones that you have. Your reactions up to this moment are the ones that you've had, the ones that you've learned, the ones that you're comfortable with, the ones that you use. What I'm inviting you to do is at this very moment realize they're just lenses. Everybody's lenses are as good as yours. You'd have exactly theirs, and they would have exactly yours if you'd gone through each other's growth and challenging experiences. The number of illnesses and deaths and good things and bad things, you'd have each other's lenses because you would have gone through each other's experience. So if you just accept that for a minute, let's talk about what can happen, the possibilities in creating a life of purpose, prosperity and joy, your ultimate life. If you first realize my lenses are just lenses. They are the accumulation of my past experience, my be deep or my context, but they don't define life as it really is. In fact, at every single moment, I'm slowing down on purpose. At every single moment, there are an infinite number of possibilities that branch from any decision you make right now. An infinite number. If you want power, if you want creative control over your life, stop. Especially when something unexpected, grumpy, or otherwise, unsatisfactory has happened. And think, what do I wish to create? I can't change what just happened. But what do I wish to create from what is? Now, I'll give you an example. When I first moved to Edmonton several years ago, in 2016, my wife and I moved up here in October, and at the beginning of 2017, we decided to join some networking groups. So we joined a BNI networking group, and in BNI, you can only have one business in each chapter. And so I wanted to join as a business coach, and we visited several chapters, and we elected to join a chapter that used to have a business coach, but he was just leaving to go somewhere on a different, moving to a different city or taking a longer term contract or something. So I joined that chapter, and I wanted to visit with that fellow and get to know him as he left. So we made an appointment, and the morning of the appointment, I got a text message saying that he didn't want to meet and really wasn't interested in talking. Now there is the be deep. Do I feel offended? Do I choose to be, slighted? Am I indignant? Am I angry? All of those natural reactions would have been dictated by the lenses that I have. My past experience about that kind of thing and what the little that I knew about him, which really wasn't very much. Instead, I did what I just said. I stopped and I said, okay, given what is, he doesn't want to meet, doesn't want to reschedule. A little text back and forth. And it sounds very much like he's really not interested. So I could choose to be offended, but I didn't. Here's what I asked. I said, okay, given what is, doesn't want to meet, doesn't want to reschedule, isn't interested, what do I wish to create? Well, what I thought about, I wish to create a future opportunity. I wish to leave everything okay, and I wish to leave it with an open field. So I sent a note back. I wished him really good luck with the assignment that he was going on and suggested that we might perhaps meet in the future, making no mention of what at least could have been looked at in some lenses as a fairly rude last-minute brush-off with no interest. Because I did that, I preserved the opportunity for the future. But if I had reacted in any one of those other ways, I wouldn't have preserved that. So that's a very small example of what happens when you choose to ask the question, given what is, what do I wish to create? So I want to talk about what embracing reality means. I saw a YouTube video the other day about a football team, and it was halftime, and this is real. This wasn't a stage thing. It was a real football team, real game. And the football team apparently, and I didn't see the game, but I saw the video afterwards, a YouTube vid, they had a fumble and an interception and messed up getting in the end zone on the 2-yard line or something. Several things that could have been considered disasters for a football game. And in the halftime locker room, the coach was reviewing those things. Now, one way the coach could have reviewed those things is, right? Did this and look at that and hit it. No, we had a fumble. Yay! And everybody in the team screamed, yay! Oh, we didn't get in from the 2-yard line. Yay! We had an interception. Yay! And they chose, and I don't know the whole setup, and I don't know their whole practice before that, but the point was they chose to embrace those things to eliminate the power. To eliminate the power those stumbles, if you will, could have over them by embracing them. Now, that might seem silly to get a tax bill in the mail of $10,000 and shout hallelujah, or to find out that your roof's leaking and saying, that's the best thing that ever happened to me, or to find out that you've been diagnosed with some illness and say, I needed this. This is the greatest thing that could have happened. Excuse me. This is the greatest thing that could have happened. That could easily seem silly. But here's what I know. And I know it from my own experience going from one end of the reality reaction line to the other. I know that when I take away the power of the context, take away the power of all my old experiences to bring me to a certain reaction, when I consciously and intentionally ignore what's behind me, the old stuff, the context. And I realize all it is a context. All it is residual power from old events. How I reacted before doesn't matter. Who said what before doesn't matter. Maybe it was completely unfair, etc., etc. Maybe all those judgments are exactly right. It doesn't take away your or my sovereign ability to decide what to do right here, right now. And that is the key to growth. You completely eliminate the power of the past in your present. You don't control the weather nor anyone else's thoughts, words, or actions. You do control in every single circumstance, with no exceptions, your own thoughts, your own feelings that come from believing those thoughts, and your own choice of actions, which include your word, your attitude, your eye rolls, your embraces, sending love, sending hate, moping, rejoicing. You absolutely control that. And here's why this matters. Creating a life that you love every day, a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy, which is how I define the ultimate life, is an accumulation of those choices. It is an accumulation of choices to say, I will not allow someone else's behavior to have power over me. I will not allow my past reactions to be my present choices. It is to remember that at this moment, every decision has a million possibilities. The future is not a foregone conclusion. Someone called the future the undiscovered country. So often we act like the future is an inevitable extension of the past. It is only if you let it. It is only if you move forward using the reactions of the past. Now, the Ultimate Life Challenge, which is this thing on the screen here, www.ultimatelifechallenge.com, is a challenge, a 5-day fun challenge that's next week, starts Monday the 17th. If you go to that URL, you can get some information. But it's just one way of many that I have of sharing what I've learned. Because what I have learned that creates joy, that creates a wild sense of freedom and control, is that I refuse to let anybody else decide how I'm going to think, how I'm going to feel, and how I'm going to behave. You know what that means? That means I get to see diamonds in that valley. I'm that explorer in the picture. I see diamonds in the valley because I said so. I see diamonds in every opportunity because I'm going to go find them. I see diamonds in your heart. Every person that listens to these, I love you. I acknowledge your greatness because I know you're a divine being. I know that. And whatever's happened before, that doesn't change the truth of who you are and who I am. And no one can take that choice from you. Your choice, using the choice, may be rusty. It may be crusty. It may be something you haven't done for a while. You may be reeling from what I've said. Or you may be thinking, yeah, that's some kind of stupid nirvana. But what I can tell you is it's worth every effort. What I can tell you is that choosing the lenses that you have on, whether you wear the lenses of resistance or the lenses of acceptance or the lenses of embracing. I saved these for that, the cool ones, right? Embracing what is and asking yourself the vital and powerful question, given what is, what do I wish to create? And maybe you need to take some action to clean up something that just happened. Maybe, but how you take it. Are you angry? Are you frustrated? When you live in that space of embracing reality, your creativity is higher. Your ability to relate and understand, seeing options is better, and this is demonstrated proof. When people are in good spirits, they see options and possibilities they wouldn't have seen otherwise. They create compromises and solutions that wouldn't have been found. When people are negative, angry, frustrated, resigned, all of those things, our creativity goes away. And we hand over the sovereign right we have to choose to the circumstance or to those that created it. So today was about lenses. You have one. Is it serving you? Examine it. What set of events and beliefs created that? Beliefs, definitions, experiences, expectations, perceptions. They're just past stuff. They've accumulated into the way you see the world. But the future is the undiscovered country. You have the opportunity right this minute, right now, to change all that. Take the lenses off. Every time you feel an emotion, especially one that might have triggered you before, just stop and ask yourself the question, what do I wish to create? No matter what anyone else said or did. If you'd like to join me on that challenge, go to the URL, www.ultimatelifechallenge.com. We'll talk more about how to get clarity, how to do exactly what I'm talking about, and how to use it to create purpose, prosperity, which includes cash, and joy, and live every single day your ultimate life.
You're listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellen Flukiger, only on LA Talk Radio.